Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. I'm Amy. I am a program assistant here at Bagot, and I'm taking over for Mindy today. We're going to chat a little bit today about asking questions and how that helps with our wellness overall in a lot of different aspects. If you've seen me before, you know I kind of always tell a story. So here's my story today. I was in high school and in a math class, and we had a substitute teacher, and I don't remember what math class it was. But anyway, the substitute came in. They wrote a thing on the board, and then they told us to solve it. And, we wrote it down on our paper, and we were staring at our paper for a while, and then the teacher went up and put the answer on the board. And most of us just sat there looking a little confused. Some of us felt pressure because obviously we should know how to solve this, but we didn't know how to solve it. There was a question, there was a problem, I guess, there was an answer, and we had no idea how the teacher had come to that particular answer. And again, most of us just kind of sat there staring at our paper, maybe thinking, oh, I'll take this home and try and figure out later how they got there. But there were finally a few brave students who said, hey, we haven't gone over this stuff yet, so I don't know how you came to that answer. I don't know how to get there, which of course was a surprise to the teacher. They weren't being mean. They just didn't realize we didn't have the full information to come to the answer that they have. And I think we run into that with our healthcare sometimes, with lots of different ways. We go to the doctor, and the doctor has all this knowledge in their head, right? They know what you've been diagnosed with, what that means, what the next steps are, what the treatments are, all those kinds of things. It's in their head. And I think sometimes they forget that they haven't told us what those steps are, or maybe they've said them, 5 times already that day, and they can't remember if it was us or somebody else. Maybe they're just thinking about dinner that evening. I don't know. And they don't tell us. Sometimes they're just not in the habit. And a lot of us, we sit there with these doctors and we're afraid to ask because maybe we're timid. Maybe we're just not that kind of person that tends to stand up for themselves. I love when we get feedback forms from people, and sometimes they say, like, this particular thing wasn't that helpful for me, because I always stick up for myself anyway. I'm like, good for you. That's great, because I'm not one of those people. I do tend to think, well, they'll tell me what's important. And again, they may not realize what's important for you to know, or they may have thought they informed you. So maybe we're a little timid. We're just not used to demanding the answers. Maybe we don't know what to ask. We're just not sure what we should be asking. Maybe we're overwhelmed in the moment, of hearing a diagnosis of some sort or something like that, and just kind of freeze up. Maybe we're, kind of afraid to not look like the smartest people in the world, as if we should know everything all the time about every subject, and especially including healthcare, which can be pretty, extensive. So we get a little afraid to ask those questions, but it's really important to be our advocate. And let's face it, this applies in a lot of ways in our life. I don't know about you, but starting a new job is difficult for me, because if I'm not the expert at something, I have a really hard time asking questions even then. And we shouldn't be, because if we want to learn the job, think about children. They don't know anything, right? Why? They just keep asking that. Why? And how does that work? And what? Because they know they need to learn. At some point in our life, we seem to decide that we should be experts at everything, and so we don't ask anymore. We just assume we know. Maybe we're thinking, well, I'll just check Google later, but it would be better to just ask in the moment. Maybe it's a new job that you need to learn. Maybe it's an old job but a new project. Maybe you're in a group of people and you've forgotten somebody's name and you're afraid to ask because, again, you feel like, oh, I should know. I mean, there's so many situations. Signing a contract. How many of us have signed something not actually fully understanding all of the things that are in it because we don't want to ask the question and look silly, And I know there's some of you out there who are going, who would do that? But trust me, there's people out there who would do that. So, asking the questions, being our own advocate in all these areas in our life is really important. And how does it apply to our wellness? Think of how stressed out you've been in situations where you didn't know for sure the answers. I mean, yes, as it applies to medical, it's exceptionally important because you need to know your next steps, all the treatment options, which one you want to take, the best way to go, all those kinds of things. You want to be able to follow those steps. So asking those questions in that scenario is so extremely important that it's insane. You've got to be able to ask those questions. So it's very important, but it is important in all those other aspects of our life because, like I said, I've sat in situations being completely stressed out, trying to figure out a project, or who a person is, or all sorts of things like that, when I could have just asked. And maybe it would have been uncomfortable for a minute to admit that I didn't know, but it's way more uncomfortable to just continue going on and not knowing what you're doing. So if you happen to have one of our bags, there's a great book in there called Taking Time, and there's a section, chapter 4, that talks about asking questions. And maybe it's just reading through that and reminding yourself, if you don't have a bag, maybe you haven't been diagnosed with cancer and so you don't have a bag, but you think this might be helpful for me. On our website you can find all of our publications, so you can get into the Taking Time, and you can look at chapter 4, and just reading through that kind of makes you feel like, you know what, I should ask questions. There are no stupid questions. It's like I should be asking whatever, and here's maybe some ideas of what to ask. If you have a doctor's appointment, pull that out beforehand, read through it, think about what you want to ask, write it down, because I know in the moment you totally forget what you were going to ask, and then it's good to have it written down because you can write down the answers and keep that with you also. But in all situations, let's learn how to advocate for ourselves by becoming 2-year-olds again, and just question. That's my challenge for you today on this Wellness Wednesday. Think of something you don't know, question it. Talk to people, ask those questions that you need the answers to. All right, I hope you all have a fabulous day, and we will see you again soon. Bye.